Hi, if you ever wondered how medieval weapons would measure up against modern weapons, then you come to the right place, because I'm going to go ahead and kind of go over that and kind of what my thoughts are on that. I'm Shark Whitebeard here at Shark's Tavern, and kind of what I'm talking about is modern day weapons besides handguns, obviously, because medieval weapons would never measure up against handguns or firearms. They're basically the game changer there. But there's a lot of stories and things you go over where people in countries or whatever with modern day weapons going against medieval weapons that, in countries where they don't have access to guns and stuff. So one of the things that I always read is that in like European countries, when they're going to rebel, the symbol of rebellion was always the pitchfork. So they grab the pitchfork. This is the weapons of the peasant farmers. They're going to rebel and fight whoever with what? Pitchforks. And this is, I'm here in California, so I didn't know how bad it was going to get with the pandemic and stuff, and all these laws are passing. So to be honest, I live out in the country, and I went and bought an extra pitchfork just to make sure I had one in case it came down to that, which would be a pretty bad thing if that's what we came down to in California, being able to defend ourselves with pitchforks. In the Latin American countries, for the most part, the symbol of rebellion, where the farmers rise up, is the machete. And this is one of your modern day machetes, which is basically another farm implement, the machete. But this is what they grab when they're going to grab and rebel against the government or whoever. The weapon of choice was what they had. Last time, that's all they had was the machete. So they grabbed these. My dad had a good friend, a guy who worked for him, who was actually born and raised in Mexico. And they lived out in the provinces, out in the country, and they said basically they handled things themselves. And he tells a story how his house, they had intruders attack his house. Just 3 guys came in, and he was a little boy, him and his family and his mom, and the father got the family to go hide, and then he went off. He said his father went off with the machete and went at it with the machete with some of these 3 guys on the porch, and they had machetes too, and fought them off like that. So these are actually weapons that people grab in these provinces still to this day in modern day. So the machete is the other thing they would grab as a weapon. One of the things I always thought about was there was this story I read about where I think they were in England. And there was a group that dressed like knights, and they had medieval mock battles with full armor and weapons, full contact. And they went to a park to do their mock battles, and they had the knights fighting each other, and they had women dressed like damsels and princesses and everything else, and they're out there doing their thing, having these mock battles at this park. And then this outlaw biker gang, motorcycle gang, came riding up, and they sat there and they're making fun of these knights and everything else. And they decided that they were going to teach these knights who were playing at battle a lesson, and teach them a lesson. Said, hey, let's show them how it's really like to be in a real fight. So these guys grabbed weapons, which I can only imagine what they grabbed. And then one of the knights said, let's all unite to fight the common enemy. So the knights united to go take on the bikers. And I can only imagine what they grabbed, which I would think, what comes to my mind, would be they grabbed probably tire irons like this. The tire iron they had with their bikes, right? Somebody says bikers, they carry ball-peen hammers. A lot of times they carry them in their back pocket. And they had probably, to go attack these knights, with ball-peen hammers, tire irons, bike chains, probably something like this, that they chain up their bikes. They probably had these and said, let's go teach these knights a lesson. Which I think the more effective weapon would have been a chain like this. What do bikers carry? Switchblade knives. So they probably had these too. And you can only imagine, come on, they're carrying switchblade knives, ball-peen hammers, tire chains, whatever, tire irons, and they're going to go fight knights in full armor carrying broadswords, shields, chainmail, helmets. So the way the story goes is the knights just beat the living tar out of the bikers. Like they didn't have a chance. Come on. And I said that's a pretty funny story. And it just kind of imagine that a bunch of guys carrying improvised weapons like that would think they could take on a bunch of knights in full armor. So that was one of the stories I heard back in the day, and I thought it was pretty funny, I don't know if it's true or not, but that's kind of interesting story I heard about people trying to improvise weapons and taking on knights in full armor, how they would have been in medieval times. There's a movie, I remember it was a low-budget movie I was watching, and this young teenage girl was telling the story, and she kept having dreams that someone was telling her that her father was actually a Roman soldier back in the day, and that her mother was a Celtic princess, and they fell in love, and there was some kind of curse on the family, and she's falling asleep thinking about all this stuff. And at one point she wakes up in the middle of the night, and the father's walking around the house with a Roman gladius short sword like this. And he's walking around the house, and she wakes up and looks like, Dad, what's the matter? And he goes, oh, I don't know, I thought I heard something, and just decided to go check it out. She goes, oh, really? She goes, well, why are you carrying a sword? He goes, well, I don't know, it is what it is, and he walks away. Which I thought was a pretty funny part of the movie. But it was pretty cool. So that's my take on modern weapons versus medieval weapons. And if you like stories like these and videos, go ahead and please subscribe, share, like, give me a thumbs up. Thank you very much.